Across Chicago, 9 people were killed between Friday and Sunday, and 2 more were gunned down just hours ago. A murder rate of 2 a day.
Bob, perhaps the only thing more shocking than the age of the murder victim, just 16, the ages of the 2 boys accused of pulling the trigger, one of whom is the same age as the victim, the other just 14.
It was shattered after a 5-year-old boy was shot and killed in a hail of bullets on the city's east side. It happened at about 6:30. The child playing in a yard on playground equipment.
A study developed in partnership with the Centers for Disease Control found that for youth aged 10 to 24 years of age, nearly 4,000 of the 4,800 murder victims in 2010 were killed by firearms. Approximately 4,800 mothers lost a child. During the 2-day national conference, several hundred participants traveled from all over the country to Boston to participate in workshops, amazing keynote speeches, education, information, and fellowship.
My name is Tulane Montgomery. I have the real privilege and honor of joining you today for the Mothers for Justice and Equality Conference. And so I'd offer to you that throughout our time together over the next couple of days, we're going to spend time sharpening our minds, building our strategy, making quick, intelligent decisions, but we're also going to open and strengthen our hearts and deepen our connections to one another. This is about catalyzing, launching, building a national network of women, of people, of family members, of community members who are committed to making things better and making it unacceptable to have young people lose their lives before their time. Fair enough?
Mothers for Justice and Equality was started in 2010 when I lost my nephew, Eric Smith, to senseless street violence. He was murdered in the Grove Hall section of Roxbury. And at that time, I was working as an executive at Citizens Bank doing community relations.
You know, that moment just changed and transformed her. She was always, you know, someone who worked hard for the community, but when that moment happened, it transformed her into the leader that she is now.
The problem of violence in our city is one that continues to be of grave concern for all of us, all of us who live in Boston and around the country. And it is particularly challenging and upsetting because it's often not just one incidence of violence, it's a series of violent events, or in some ways a culture of violence that exists in our world. And it is differentially applied to our poorer citizens, so it makes it even harder, I think, for them.
The murder of youngsters is appalling. We have for years and years invested in youth programs. I call upon the federal government, please get back in the business of investing in your national youth.
People have asked me, you know, what do you do at MJE? And literally it is whatever Mona Lisa asks me to do. You know, the latest offing was around the building of the national conference. Admittedly, I was one of the people who would go to her and say, you know, we need to do something larger, because I was traveling around the country working with faith groups and cities to try to reduce violence, and I would always run into mothers groups. And they have their own particular niche in this whole milieu of violence reduction. And I thought that it was important for their voices to be amplified nationally.
I just left Chicago the day before yesterday, where we put to rest a 9-year-old child due to gun violence. So I stand here and I come today to find ways to take back to Chicago so that we can find some type of way to stop this epidemic.
Today's conference is a perfect example of people having come from all over the country to try to think about how to craft solutions that reflect the real needs and interests of people living in our communities, rather than a top-down approach.
Your most burning question that you would like to get out of today?
Should I just help a current organization, or do I still go forward with trying to start my own? I'm hoping that through this conference experience, I'll be able to find, my calling and what I should do.
So the workshop that I went to, it was how to build an organization, a nonprofit organization, and it was very interesting. I think it opened my mind to a wider way of thinking of what a nonprofit organization for this topic can be, right? It was very interesting because I saw a whole bunch of people there. They have this different perspective of how they want to create a nonprofit organization for this topic, for the violence, and it opened my mind to, if I take all these little ideas of everyone at the table at the session that I went to, we can combine them together and be collaborative.
Hi, my name is Deb Beth. I work with Imago Dei Fund, and we work with a lot of small startup organizations, so I'm interested in learning things about how to make suggestions when they're struggling, and also I'm really interested in learning how to encourage collaboration so we're all working toward the same goals.
One of the things that was emphasized was collaboration, and that there are a lot of organizations out there and how we need to collaborate and support each other. That was very important for me. That stood out in that meeting and that workshop that we had was collaboration.
And so we're in the process of trying to launch the Spot for Life.
Websites that are really helpful in helping you narrow that down. So if you do grab my card after, I promise to share those resources with you. But those are all great ways.
Far too many of us in our churches and congregations who have held on so tightly to the belief that if we only pray and that if we only go to church, that and that alone will save us from violence and destruction and degradation and inequality and injustice, and that is not true.
Coming here to Boston has really been the completion of one phase of how I do work in the community. So the fact that I was able to connect with such powerful sisters has just really been a great movement of the spirit for me.
This conference and this organization, as mayor, I'm proud to see that the women of Boston have taken this issue on a national level. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm glad to see that Boston is leading the way. And I'm pleased to welcome all the visitors from across the United States of America. I know that we have delegations here from different cities. From Chicago, thank you and welcome. New York City, thank you and welcome. Nashville, Tennessee, thank you and welcome. St. Louis, Missouri, New Haven, Connecticut, Richmond, Virginia, from Philly, from San Francisco, and from Detroit, thank you and welcome. And if there's I missed anybody, I apologize. But you can see that this is powerful to have a national reach. You have the opportunity to make a powerful national impact here in what you do every single day. And you're certainly going to make your cities and all over the country safer and a stronger place. The mission is to end neighborhood violence. When you run for mayor of an urban area in the cities I just mentioned, if that's not on the top of your list, then you're in the wrong job.
And I just thought it was critical that someone who has the energy, such as Mona Lisa, just put that energy towards gathering, the women across the nation to let everybody know that it's not okay, for our communities to be suffering the way that they are.
Many of you come from other parts of the country and come to a place where you are looking to perhaps learn about ways that you can improve the quality of life in the neighborhood in which you are connected to. Learning from your tragedy, how it happened, why it happened, is important for us, as painful as it is to tell and retell and relive. We need to understand so that we can then do what's necessary to improve the quality of life for our children.
I think the conference is one of the best conferences that I've attended in a long time because women were able to assemble here, and actually it served as a therapeutic type of process because a lot of women are still hurting because they have lost their sons to gun violence throughout the United States. And I listened to a lot of the women speak to one another, console one another, so I thought it was really exceptional.
I went to the health and wellness workshop, and the workshop was incredible because it focused on understanding trauma and learning how to incorporate self-care into your everyday practice.